Okay, we are live. This is a complete impromptu Facebook Live that Rebecca and I are doing. So I don't even know, to tell you the truth, if anybody is seeing this yet. But if you come on and you hear us talking, say something in the comments, say hello. And if you have a question about anything related to college admissions, let us know. But we're just doing this kind of last minute. And the topic tonight is really, some of you may have seen that we offer a service called the Concierge service. And we wanted to talk a little bit more about that service, but also talk about why it's so important that parents are involved in this process, and why you need to become, quite honestly, what I would call an educated consumer of the process. And Rebecca Chabro has been, and she'll tell you a little bit about her background, has been a high school counselor, then wanted to go into college counseling, and now works at a private girls' school. But Rebecca is working with me on the college concierge service. So Rebecca, thanks for being here. Why don't you introduce yourself quickly, and then we'll talk about, why it's important to have parents involved in the process and kind of how you've seen it improve outcomes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me tonight. So as Debbie said, my name's Rebecca. Currently, I'm the director of college counseling at Linden Hall, which is the oldest all-girls boarding school in Lancaster County, PA. And it's the oldest all-girls boarding school in the country, located in Lancaster County, PA. But before that, I actually started my career working as a high school counselor in a New Jersey public school. So I very much understand the realities of public schools and the counseling that students receive and the training the counselors receive to work with those students. And then I worked abroad in Barcelona at an international school, an IB school, so I know the IB curriculum pretty well. Visited a number of UK universities. And then I worked at a Jewish boarding school in North Carolina, so I also very much understand religious education and things involved with that. And I've also worked for an independent college counseling company where I learned best practices in college counseling and have utilized them in my work as a college counselor. I also worked in graduate admissions for a little bit as well.
So you've seen like the range of different ways that students get support. But one of the things we wanted to kind of make more clear is that the concierge service that we provide is really targeted to support parents, and so that parents can better support their students. When students really need some one-on-one help, we can add that. And when it comes to essays, when parents aren't writing the essays, so that's definitely, a student activity. But I have found, and this is personally with my own journeys with my kids, and then seeing people, whether in the Paying for College 101 group, and just, in other families that have been part of the concierge service, is that the more educated the parents become on the process, the better the outcomes are for the students. And when I say outcomes, I'm really kind of talking about obviously where the student ultimately goes to school. But the other important outcome of this process is the financial outcome, because there's a lot of pieces that are vested in the process. You want to make sure your student is going to be successful, in college and therefore after college in life. But from a financial standpoint, you want to make sure that you're making a good financial decision, because that decision, whatever you choose to make, is going to impact your student because it will determine how much loans that they might have. And it's also going to impact the family because it's going to determine how much loans a parent might have to co-sign for, or a parent might have to take out on their own, or just a parent might have to dig into their own retirement money for. So that personally is why it's so important for me to get parents involved. And I was talking with Rebecca about this a little earlier, and I'm going to let her explain, but just about what you've seen about how schools support or can't support, families in the college admissions and figuring out how to pay for it process.
Yeah. So one thing we were talking about earlier is, the person driving the process at the school is generally the school counselor. And I've been a public school counselor, so I know the realities. Oftentimes you have a caseload of 250 at the minimum, typically 350, 500 students, where you're spanning across all grade levels. And you're responsible not only for college admissions and, college and career advising, but you're also responsible for academic advising and social emotional support. But the thing is that, these school counselors at public schools have to have a master's in counseling or something similar to school psychology to become a school counselor. And those master's programs do not cover college admissions. I have my master's in counseling with a school counseling concentration, and we spent one night in my entire 3-year graduate program actually learning anything about college admissions. And I went to grad school in New Jersey, and basically in my community resources class on the night talking about higher education as a community resource, the professor went through all of the colleges in New Jersey and told us about them. And that was it. So as a school counselor coming in, had I not had a personal interest in college admissions and tailored a lot of my graduate school projects towards college admissions, then I would have had no education on college admissions, just simply what are the schools in New Jersey. So you're having these people who are driving the college admissions process at no fault of their own, not really being trained in it. And so this is where, yes, they learn on the job, and there were definitely things I learned on the job, but it's so helpful when the parent actually knows, because if these counselors who don't have training in it have to go and teach the parents, and they also don't have enough time because they have a million other responsibilities on their plate, it's definitely helpful for the parents to be able to, also kind of drive the process.
And as you're saying, Rebecca, this is not about blame. It's just the reality of the way the situation is right now.
Yeah.
And then layer on top of that, this is a huge financial decision, and there's a financial aspect to this, and if people in high schools, the school counselor is barely getting training on the college admission side of it, I have to believe that they have very little to none training on the financial side of it.
At most, they get workshops. I know we would get workshops sent to us, like a one-day workshop on financial aid or something. So that's at most what we would get. Yeah.
So that, we've only been talking for like about 6 or 7 minutes, but that is kind of why it's so important for me to make sure that parents have the support on both the admission/academic side and the financial side. And, and that the better they understand the process, the better they can direct their own student. And as I was saying to Rebecca earlier, and everybody knows, hopefully, I'm a parent. I have 3 kids. I've been through this process, personally 3 times. In fact, I am still in the process because I have a high school senior right now. At the end of the day, the people who are going to be most vested in the outcome of the process is, the family, the parent. The parent has the most, vested interest in making sure that their student goes to a school that they're going to be happy at, successful, and also that family can afford. So, so to separate parents out of the process and say this is a process that should be driven by students. Students are definitely involved, but they can't be involved in this alone. So that's just my personal philosophy about why, parents are integral to, this admissions and financing process, and quite honestly, why our concierge service is geared to working towards parents for most of the time. Again, parents are not writing the essays, or parents aren't, necessarily filling out the Common App, but there's a lot of work that needs to happen before you get to that part in the process.
And also the parents are, a huge support, because especially in the public school setting, the counselor has, like I said, such a big caseload that they're just not even able to emotionally support the students through this. And so to have parents who understand the process, that would definitely be helpful. And also through the concierge service, I think what we do is, kind of teach parents how to support their students and how to help them through the process, not necessarily to do obviously not to do the process for them, but to guide them in a way that will make it as stress-free as possible. I mean, it's not going to be stress-free, but,
Right.
Definitely reduce the stress.
And the other reality of the process is that it's somewhat time consuming, especially if you do good research, and the research really needs to come with, researching colleges, building the right college list, which is so important in driving the process, because that college list is going to ultimately, allow you to either afford the colleges that your student gets into or not afford them if you don't do the right research up front. And that is just a little bit time consuming. That's really where the parent can take the lead. At least, a parent once said to me that they felt like they were playing the role of, let's say, like an executive secretary, like where they were doing a lot of the work and then presenting it and working with their students, to make final decisions. But, students are swamped with schoolwork. They are trying to do extracurriculars however they can in the world of COVID. And, they don't necessarily have the time to be doing the in-depth research that a parent could do to really, uncover the right schools, or, the list of schools that the parent can then sit down with the student and dig in further.
And nor do they know necessarily how to do it.
Right.
My students, I work at a private school. They're lucky because we have a weekly class where I give workshops similar to the ones that I, give through the concierge service. So, they have somebody guiding them through it and learning how to do things and learning what all the terms are and what they should be considering and making sure that they time it out. I spent much of my day today reading first drafts of essays. So most high school students don't start their essays till senior year, but my students already have submitted a first draft to me. But that's not typical, especially in a public school setting. And so having, this support, and this guidance on how to approach the college process and expand it, not leave it all until the fall, because that's also going to stress the student out. The earlier you get started, which is why, we meet with junior families. And so it helps them get started early, helps them learn what they can do earlier to make the process less stressful later on and also have better outcomes.
Right. And to that point, actually, our concierge service really started in October. So we already have families that we've been working with since October, but we know that, for lots of different reasons, families don't kind of recognize that they should start it early enough or maybe get their act together. I understand. So we are opening it up again right now. This is the end of March. This is, in my ideal world, I would say a perfect time would be, people would have started in October or less spring, but we're past that. So this is still a very valid time to be joining the concierge service and learning all the things you need to do, because to Rebecca's point, you don't want to be in this situation, over the summer or in August, where you start to scramble and your student, work starts to pile up because they got to now do essays and they got to do schoolwork. I mean, my God, wouldn't it be so nice if 90% of that was done before they started senior year? And particularly this coming senior year, which we cross our fingers, kids will be back in school, and really be able to enjoy that senior year, as opposed to what happened this year. So anyhow, we're kind of like telling people, get on the bandwagon if you're not already on a bandwagon. I'm going to actually share the screen for 1 second and show everyone. I think this should see it. Can you guys? Oh, okay. I think you see my whole screen, but
I
okay.
see the whole screen. So.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Here, let me, let's see. I'll block everything out. So this is our concierge service. The other reason why we're, on here tonight is I don't want people to miss out on a really good bonus that we had, and we've never really had a bonus to join the concierge service before. And the bonus is if you join by the 21st, which is this Sunday, you will get a free book. Can you see this? Which is Who Gets In and Why by Jeff Salingo. And if you guys have not heard of the book before or have not heard of the author before, that's fine. I get it. But this is an amazing book. It came out in last September. It hasn't even been out a year. And it's really easy to read. And it gives you the inside story, quite honestly. Jeff spent a year at 3 different schools, and it gives you the inside stories of how those schools make decisions. So if you're a parent of an 11th grader, it is the perfect book to be reading to really, understand the process. So anyhow, that's why we think it's important, and we're giving this book away free for anybody who is willing to be an early bird. And in addition, we've been doing a webinar series with Jeff, and the next session, and this is again why we're pushing for people to join by Sunday. The next live session is this Sunday, so you would have a live webinar with Jeff, and then there's actually another session after that. And the third piece of this is we're going to have a private session about a month after the program starts to give everybody a chance to read the book. And we're going to have a private Q&A with Jeff Salingo. So really good bonus. And we hope that people will take advantage of it by Sunday. So I'm just going to scroll down and not that anybody can come to this page. These are all the topics that we go over, but let me tell you what's in the detail of the Concierge program. And I'm going to put the link in the comments right now. So as Rebecca mentioned, she does live coaching sessions. And I don't know, Rebecca, maybe you want to talk about the ones that you've done and kind of the detail that you give.
Yeah, so one of the ones I did was on choosing classes for senior year. And so not only did I talk about, just the types of classes that students should be taking in terms of rigor of curriculum, but I explained what rigor of curriculum is, what it means for colleges. We go over, and we use it a lot. There's something called the Common Data Set, which is put out by all different colleges and has almost infinite amount of information.
I know, right?
It's insane. So much information, but they're really actually pretty transparent about what they value. And so the Common Data Set shows, how much a college values rigor of curriculum. And then they also show you what specific subjects they recommend or require. And I went through the top 50 national universities and top 25 national liberal arts colleges and, really analyzed what they're looking for and present that to families so they can get an idea as to, if you're applying to the more selective colleges, what you need to be doing to prepare. So I go into a lot of depth. I look at a lot of data and try to make it more concise for you. Another workshop we did was on letters of recommendation. That's something that I think a lot of students feel like is the part that's most out of their control with this process, because obviously they control the activities they do. They fill out their application, they're writing their essay. So everything, if there's an interview, they're in the interview, but the recommendation is something that they never get to see. But I, really talk in depth about how a student can drive, their letter of recommendation and, have the teacher hopefully talk about the things that they want to talk about and what they can do to get the teacher to talk about those things. And so students really have a lot more control than they think. So, that's just a little taste of kind of what we've gone over.
Yeah, as Rebecca kind of mentioned, there's a strategy to everything. And I don't want to use that word meaning that we're gaming the system, but is that if you think of at every point, of the process where you kind of have to make a decision, it's a decision, right? About what teachers your student is going to ask for a recommendation. That's an important decision. What type of information you give those teachers, how you approach them, that's all, good information that you may, intrinsically know, but Rebecca, who does this all the time, does this with, hundreds of students, and then sees the recommendations. Sometimes you see them, right? Or the teacher recommendations?
I see the teacher. I see them. I don't know with other schools. But yeah, and it's definitely helpful. And I've had teachers thank me when students have done what I've advised them to do to help, give them content for the recommendation.
So that's just one piece of this multi-step process.
Yeah, but I think I think something that just came to my mind, it's a word that when I worked at that independent college counseling company that they used a lot, was that with everything you do in this process, you need to be intentional. And we basically, through the concierge service, teach you how to be intentional with every aspect of the process.
I think that's a great word, much better word than what I use, but that's actually really, you shouldn't be, like willy-nilly about what you're doing, but in order to know what to do and to be intentional, you have to be educated, on the process. And sometimes your kids are willing to kind of like sit there and listen to it, but most likely you're going to be most interested in willing to understand this and then guide your student when they have to, take these actions, or when you have a conversation with them about what's teachers should you be asking about the recommendation, and let's talk about, what information you should provide to them. So I actually say that, obviously the college admissions process and figuring out how you're going to pay for it is an important process, but it's also the groundwork. If your student can learn from this process about how to navigate a complicated system, how to interact with different people in the system. These are skills that they're going to need and use throughout lots of different parts of life, particularly when you go to college and they're not there. So it's also like a great training process for parents and students to work together on. So anyhow, let me just quickly go through what the concierge service is. It is monthly coaching sessions, like Rebecca just mentioned. In addition to the monthly coaching session, we do an office hours where sometimes we actually bring up another topic. Sometimes we use the time because we extended the original topic from the coaching session. And sometimes it's just, parents have questions about things that have come up that month, related to their student. And it's just a good Q&A time. And then another piece is that you get access to a tool that we created, which I won't go into detail, but it's called College Insights, and it helps you to find the colleges that have the best merit scholarships for your student. So that's actually another kind of time-saving tool that helps you in the process. You get the ability to send emails to get answers or advice on anything that you have questions about related to the process. And you get invitations to any special webinars that we have with thought leaders like Jeff Salingo, or, if we've had other high-profile thought leaders in higher education do special webinars and seminars, you get invited to that. So, it's all in all, I think, a pretty good service, and it's all very, very, very reasonable. So if you join now, and it will take you from the beginning of April to the end of September, it's $4.99. So really, that should cover everything your student and you need to get the process started and actually, almost complete it if you are dedicated over the next 6 months. So that's it. This was just a quick, go ahead, Rebecca.
I was just going to say, just to add to the value of all of that, standard private college counselors, to get an independent college counselor is going to, at minimum, be $100 an hour. And they're working with the student, but it's a lot of that is just actual work, essay work, things like that, not necessarily teaching you everything so you can drive the process. And so this is really a fantastic deal for that price, to be able to really get guidance throughout the entire process. That's about 4 hours total with with an independent college counselor. And so, I think this is great. I've done independent college counseling. I think coming from a school background, I think it's great for parents to have this knowledge and have a really affordable option.
So hopefully people watching, you'll take advantage of the good bonus that is available till this Sunday. You could still join after that until March, but actually March 31st, we're cutting it off because we want to give our attention to the people who have joined and get them through the next 6 months. As always, if you guys have any questions about anything, you can send them to me at debbie@roadtocollege.com, or you can put questions in the Paying for College 101 Facebook group if you guys aren't already a member. And hopefully for the parents who have 11th graders out there, we will see you, face to face, because we do Zoom sessions, so we see and we get to know the parents really well. Hopefully we will see you in the concierge service starting in April. So thanks everybody.
Bye.
See you soon.